with the Basehor emblem on it. Ding.
Have it behind you.
Have you heard from Bernie? Anybody? Okay. Call the meeting to order. Do roll call. Sharon?
Here.
Hi.
Here.
Vicky?
Here.
Ben? Here. Show for all of Bernie not here. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Going to call the public. Public comment will be allowed at the mayor's discretion. This is an exclusive of items requiring a public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. As a reminder to the public and city council members alike, the city council and staff will not engage in a dialogue or debate with any speaker pertaining to any comments made. Members of the public wishing to speak must keep their comments germane or relevant to the specific agenda item before the council. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor. Remember to state your name and address for the record. If you're online and would like to participate, please type your name into the chat and wait to be recognized before unmuting and speaking. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on an agenda item tonight?
Yes.
Okay, you want to step to the podium and say your name and address, please?
Casey Durr, 4520 North 142nd Street.
Okay, yes, sir.
So I'd like to just mention a few things in regards to the agenda item number 2, the Falcon Lakes Parkway, no parking golf course driving range area. I read over what you all will be discussing tonight, and last year, March 23 was when the whole parking deal when it came up, the traffic control and whatnot. And the council discussed it at that meeting with the intentions of it was going to be no parking north and south side of the street from 7 Highway to 147, allowing the golf course temporary use of parking in front of the driving range. At that meeting, everybody was clear that it was going to be a temporary item. There was no set date of how long you were going to allow that. Then it got pushed over to the next month, which you all voted on it, approved it. Still, everybody was under the intentions that this was going to be a temporary thing to allow them adequate time to build their parking lot. Jump forward a year, here we are, and now it's looking as you all are discussing spending $150,000 taxpayer money to put in permanent parking for the golf course. And I could be reading it all wrong, but I just wanted to state that, you know, I'm trying to figure out what changed in the past year to now we're going to start spending taxpayer dollars for private business to have parking when at the end of the day, they're still supposed to have a parking lot. I'm all for, you know, extending them more time, but to spend taxpayer money on that, I don't agree. So that's all I had.
Thank you. And when we get into the work session and we discuss it, if there's a question, just raise your hand and we'll let you in on some of the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is anybody online, Kathy? Okay, moving on. Ordinance number 913. Ordinance of the City of Basehor, Kansas, enacting Chapter 44, Article 6 of the Code of City Basehor, Kansas, pertaining to vehicular trip reduction.
Thank you, Mayor. Maddie Waldeck, Deputy City Administrator. Included in the packet for consideration this evening is an ordinance related to trip reduction. As it was established in the citizen satisfaction survey that was conducted, walkable options, particularly trails and sidewalks, are incredibly important to the residents of Basehor. And taking that charge, staff and elected officials have submitted several grant applications through the Mid-America Regional Council so that we could leverage external dollars to be able to construct those improvements for our residents. This action tonight would codify the city's longstanding emphasis on the importance of walkable solutions, particularly trails and sidewalks, and also the effects of those, the connectivity, the trip reduction. An ordinance like this would allow us to be even more competitive to secure additional dollars. And so when we go through these application processes as a staff, we're continually looking at ways that we can be additionally competitive and even more competitive than we have in the past. And we believe that this ordinance would accomplish that. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Sherry?
No, I mean, I think it's a good idea, to have safety for walking and biking, people walking their dogs, strollers. I know there's a lot of activity in my neighborhood with young families. So, and especially if it'll help us to secure additional funding so that we're not having that on the residents here in town. So thank you.
Ben?
No questions. I guess only comment would be, I guess, since I've been on city council and then previous to that on planning commission, I've always, I live up in the Falcon Lakes area, which is a little bit up north, and just the capability of our kids to be able to walk to school, and not just a school, but any school at that. So, the ability to have those trails and systems and sidewalks, that capability, if this is something that's going to inevitably help us to get additional grants and tax dollars, offset from it, I'm all supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No real questions, agree with their comments. This is just putting into policy or ordinance what we are actually practicing. So I'm all in favor of that.
Thank you.
Considering the amount of money that the city has had in grants, whatever helps you, and this makes sense, I'm all for it. Good deal. Thank
Dollars of grants last year. You guys are on top of it, and we really appreciate it more than anything else. So let's go forward.
Thank you so much.
Need a motion on ordinance number 913.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to approve ordinance number 913, an ordinance of the city of Basehor, Kansas, enacting chapter 44, article 6 of the code of city of Basehor, Kansas, pertaining to vehicular trip reduction.
I have a motion to have a second.
Well, second.
Motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Ben?
Aye.
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 Vicky?
you. Aye.
Sherry?
I,
Passes 4-0. Is there a need for an executive session?
there is.
Okay, so I need a motion for the adjournment of the regular meeting.
Mayor.
Yep.
Oh, this is Sherry, and I would move to adjourn the regular session.
Have a motion to have a second.
I will second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. We'll go right into the work session. Item number 1, Basehor Community Volunteers 4th of July celebration request.
Thank you, Mayor. A discussion item tonight for the council feedback is the 4th of July celebration that's put on each year by the Basehor Community Volunteers, formerly Basehor Pride. In last year's budget cycle, the city authorized a contribution up to $20,000 to fund the fireworks display for the celebration. Of course, 155th Street is under extensive reconstruction and will be for the balance of the year. And so we've been working with the leadership of the Basehor Community Volunteers, and we have Hayden Maples, who is the vice president of the organization. The mayor and I met with the Basehor Community Volunteers and the Chamber of Commerce to talk about the festivities for this year. And we understand that this is a very important event for the community. And so we wanted to come up with some possible solutions on where to have it. And so the Basehor Community Volunteers have let us know that they are putting a pause on the parade in light of all the construction that's going on in our community. And the recommendation or the ask of the Basehor Community Volunteers is to host the fireworks display at the Field of Dreams facility. Their pyrotechnic did a site visit and supplied a written statement saying that they felt like the Field of Dreams complex would be a good and appropriate place to hold such an event. And then we also, our city attorney, Maria Garcia, has drafted an agreement to allow the Basehor Community Volunteers to host this event at that facility. This does not require formal action by the city council. However, we recognize the importance of this event and the policy decision to allow them to host that event at that site. And so we would really appreciate the feedback and direction from the council and maybe a general consensus on next steps.
Hayden, did you have anything you want to say before we open it up?
No, I think Maddie covered it well. Appreciate the flexibility and the consideration. You know, it's unfortunate we can't have the parade, but there's a lot of construction, which is great news for the city long term. So trying to be flexible, and at the event, we're thinking food trucks would still be able to attend and have that portion of the festivities, and then maybe either live music or at least some long games available for pre-firework entertainment.
Did Danny check it out, make sure there's plenty of room?
Yeah, he confirmed that he was happy with it. I think I would still like a little more information on his exact launch point and the areas that we're gonna make sure we still have available. So hopefully we can maximize use of the bleachers that are out there and the full parking lot, because that's parking would be the largest concern I have at the moment.
Sherry?
Yeah, first off, Mr. Maples, thank you very much. I'm thrilled to hear you're on the committee. So great. A couple things that I'll mention, and I don't know if the city or Mr. Maples might know, but as far as like restrooms, of course, they'd probably have to bring in some portable for the crowds, I assume. And then also on parking, I know there's probably going to not be enough out there. Is there any thought to have some places to park here in town, you know, big ideas, maybe the Catholic Church or different locations, and then encourage people to carpool?
Or come up with some kind of a shuttle
Shuttle,
to
yeah.
shuttle people out to that area.
So, but I love the idea of live music and the food trucks. I think that's fantastic. So, kudos on that one. So, but that's the only thing I could think of, is to make sure if you're going to have that many people, you know, that we have enough restroom facilities, and then to think about parking, because I know there are, you can't really park on the road there, and there's a private home, I believe, somewhere close. So obviously we don't want to impede the homeowner. So just some things to think about, since I know we got a little time here, but thank you very much.
Great question. On the restrooms, we'll have to look into what is available, and if we need additional, we can look into that. And then on the parking front, we talked about reaching out to the church that's nearby. And then I think, like you said, carpooling recommendations, and even if we need to go to a shuttle route, we can consider that as well.
No, the agreement itself, I'm fine with. There's always going to be some logistics things to work on. So, and I appreciate there's a group out there working on the logistics for it.
Mhm.
Did we check with Field of Dreams with Troy? I assume you did. Make sure he doesn't have a tournament or anything like that.
We did, Council President Sims. Yeah,
I'm good.
we reached out to him and made sure that there were no tournaments, practice or league play.
Just want to make sure we're not out there shooting off fireworks. It's playing
great
softball
point.
at the same time. So yeah, perfect.
Great point. Thank you.
A very good question.
And the other point on coordination with the facility is we recognize weekends won't be an option. So right now the plan would be to not have a rain out date. So just hoping for the continued streak of good weather on the 4th.
Perfect. Thank you.
155th. Thank goodness we're going to have an improvement. It affects all of us. So it takes all of us being flexible. And that's so great that something has been worked out for the 4th of July. I do think we need to make sure there are big signs so people do not confuse which is the entrance into Field of Dreams, because it's really easy to go down that private drive. Because a long time ago, that was a part of the entrance to Field of Dreams. And I'm sure Danny will be checking out that housing development too, to make sure
Right.
everything's okay there.
Yeah, that's what I want to see his circles. Basically, there's a clearance per size of shell, and we talked about it some after last year because it's getting close even around the high school. So figuring out what the right long-term solution is with that as well.
Mhm. Thank you, Hayden, for all your work.
Something else we might want to think about is putting some big signs up out on State Avenue and around here to let people know that it's not at the high school this year. Because even though I know there's sometimes they put it on the news, but not everybody watching. So we just got to make sure we get it out to everybody.
Yeah, maybe even in the quarterly
Yeah,
newsletter.
that'd be a good idea.
How, since that goes to all the residents.
That's a great idea.
Does anybody else have any questions for Hayden or Maddie?
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for coming early.
Thank you.
Not-
Thanks, Hayden. See you later.
So Mayor, just so that staff is clear, the general consensus from council is for staff to continue to work out the logistics with Basehor community volunteers to allow the facility at Field of Dreams to be the site for the festivities. Okay,
Please.
Yes,
thank you
Thank
so much.
that'd be great.
Thank you for all the work.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2, Falcon Lakes Parkway, no parking golf course driving range area.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tonight in the work session for discussion is the Falcon Lakes driving range area, no parking, speed reduction, calming devices, and pavement striping with an ADA ramp crossing at 142nd. Kathy, we can go to the next slide. So a lot of this information you've seen, let's go to the second one, please, engineer design. So this was submitted to the city. This is the outline drawing for the parking lot. And if we go down, there's 3. Keep going. Keep going. The one from Olson, keep going. So right there. So staff working with Olson Engineering, we set out to look at, oh, scroll up, please. Right there. So we set out to look at items of discussion for parking, traffic calming devices, pavement striping through the whole corridor from 7 Highway to 147. Falcon Lakes Parkway was designed originally for no parking on either side. And then the council mayor was approached for allowing parking from Clubhouse Drive down to where the driving range is. All of these improvements would be on the city's roadway with new concrete curbing, bump outs, striping, and ADA crosswalk and signage. With the idea that these items would be temporary until the parking lot would be constructed. So unless the council decided to leave the traffic calming devices in to reduce speed, the parkway would go back to its original design for 30-mile-an-hour speeds. So any items constructed now to go back to the original design would be removed, except the ADA. So in the year 1 pavement stripe or pavement project, we do have all the striping because it will get restriped once the asphalt work's completed. So the only other outstanding item that were to remain would be the new ADA ramp at 142nd to go across on the north side. And if you want to scroll back down a little bit more, right, it was Kathy, you go back down. So on the, can you zoom in on the engineer's estimate? So we have got the pricing for the sidewalk ramp. We've already got pricing from our local contractors. And then the permanent pavement striping, we've got all of that already priced out to do. That's included with the estimates for the year one paving for progress. So all the other items, if you subtracted those, would be items that would be removed once the parking lot was constructed.
The $30,000 of it's all that's associated with what we have currently budgeted and planned out of that number.
Correct.
Okay, just clarifying.
No, 154.
What we're gonna do the ADA ramp.
Mhm.
And we are looking at doing the permanent pavement markings and signings. They're in a traffic study that shows we're averaging 38 miles an hour down that road, even with parking on one side. So those ones are kind of already booked into with the resurfacing and planning that we're doing. So it's really, that would be the only 30,000, the rest of 154 would disappear.
All right, so this working with Olson, this was to accomplish the parking on the north side of Falcon Lakes, traffic calming devices, and then the ADA crossing. So breaking it down like Councilman Garber was just stating, those two items would remain on the roadway. But the other items could be removed once the parking lot was installed.
So your original drawings that started this, that had the parking lot, where'd that came from?
You can scroll back up. They were
Who-
provided to the city from the property owners, engineer, design, architect.
There's no actual request or permit requirement. They're not actually in a position where they're saying, we want a permit to build this.
No, they provided that design when they did the renovations to the driving range. And they had to look, we required them to do stormwater study and the sanitary sewer alignment through there. So, and they're set back off the road. So they presented that when their building for their driving range actually came in. We've had, you can keep going, Kathy, please. All the way up top, please, to their design. Yeah, I think, there you go. So this entrance basically lines up with 142nd to the south.
Right.
Has there been any estimate or discussion with the property owner to when this would start being constructed?
Not by me. I know Crystal has had an email communication with him recently on the plan, correct?
Yeah, on the site plan, his site plan is set to expire in 2 weeks, so I reached out, reminded him that he can request a 1 year extension. So he intended to do that, but there was no discussion about actual construction.
I came to the chase on this.
No. you go right
I
ahead.
don't see any reason why we would do a temporary $154,000
Mhm.
project to assist a business owner. We haven't done that for other business owners. That street was always meant to be non-parking.
Mm.
I am in favor of the striping because we already know we're at 38 miles an hour, not 30, so if that helps slow down a little. Living out there, it's tight. We had these comments a year ago with some innuendos and discussion on how soon he would get his parking lot going, but if there's not a permit, we're a year out. I'm ready to go to the parking. Whole street. That's just quick and to the chase.
Well, I agree with you. I've had multiple conversations with residents in this neighborhood, as well as the HOA president, and there has not been one single person that has been in support of parking on this street. So with that being stated, I agree with Ty that I'm I will support the ADA ramp construction as well as the markings and signage. And outside of that, I don't believe that we should mark out for parking stalls at all. That, there may be, stuff that you need to put along, crosswalks and things like that. But outside of that signage and those markings, as well as the ADA ramps, I think that's really all that street needs.
I don't think I'm interested in spending that kind of money for something temporary. And I know a year ago when we talked about it, it was temporary. I think the only thing we didn't do that maybe what should have been a consideration, if it would have even have been allowed consideration, would have been an end date to the temporary status. I know there's a definite need for parking, especially during tournaments and with the growth out there of, and I was curious, that was gonna be one of my questions, is anybody who talked to residents or the HOA or anything like that to find out, what was the temperature of the people out there as far as what did they want going on? Cause I mean, they're the ones that are living it and driving it every day. So that's just kind of my opinion anyway.
Thank you.
Well, as I read this, being newer on the team, I'm going, why is this a city expense? And I've been through there and I asked my husband, why in the world are they parking on the street to go to the driving range? I said, where do you park if you're going to the driving range? He says, I park up there at the clubhouse and I walk down. That makes sense to me. I mean, you're gonna have to walk a little bit anyway. I'm all for safety. But this does not make sense to me.
Anybody else have anything?
No, sir.
So would it be council's direction to put a timeline on when we would want to revert it back to no parking? Like I said, we've got the striping scheduled and we can get the ADA ramp put in here in the next couple of weeks. Won't affect any other paving for progress.
I guess my question would be back at you guys. Can you just pick a date? I mean, there's agreements out there, temporary agreements. I mean, can we just say,
And just make it all straight, no parking, instead of put in $154,000 into it.
yeah, I don't know the technical side of what agreements may or may not be out there, how quick we can do this. I know we'll have to go down to that actual work session. But I don't know if there's notices that needs to be given. I'm fine with this as soon as we can, but I don't know legally what that date
Right.
is.
If it's been going on for this long.
So I'll jump in here. Based upon kind of the feedback and the direction that we're hearing this evening, I think staff's recommendation to this body would be that we prepare an ordinance to bring back for consideration, potentially even at the April 24th meeting, that would amend your traffic schedule, that would reinstitute no parking along the entire roadway. And those are typically effective upon publication. So
No, that's correct. It would essentially be a repeal of the previous ordinance, so you would be taking it back. And generally, ordinances take effect upon publication, but you all can make the date whatever you'd like. If you'd like it to be 30 days out, 60, whatever, to give people notice and time to prepare, we can certainly have it effective on X date.
And I think to the council's point, I mean, the council has been discussing this. This has not been an item that's been done in a vacuum. The property owner and business owner certainly was aware that it was originally the intention of this governing body to make that no parking because of the concerns related to vehicles parked up and down the roadway and the golf carts and the pedestrians and just a lot of opportunity for conflict points. And so this should not come as a surprise. I think we could certainly give him a courtesy heads up that staff is preparing this ordinance for council consideration and that it will be on the council agenda April 24th. And my recommendation is that you make it effective upon publication. It's time to probably just rip the Band-Aid off on this one.
I agree. I like the April 24th date. By the time we notify that it's May, that's a month before all the kids are out of school and we're gonna have 100 kids in that pool every day and walking back and forth. So I like the timing.
Did you say May or April?
Well, it's April 24th when we vote on it. So I don't know when it actually gets noticed up. And
It'll be published the next week.
so, yeah, so it's early May when it's official.
So middle of May is what we're basically looking at. That is when we can, Gene can put the no parking signs up and all that.
Yeah, as soon as it's published, which I don't remember the publication schedule. Okay, so. Yeah,
Okay.
like April 25th is when it's effective. I mean, potentially unless you amend what we present to you on the ordinance, but staff's going to prepare the ordinance to be effective upon publication.
Yeah, and I'm probably a little bit more, I don't know. I'm okay with the 24th, but also I was thinking maybe like just a 30-day notice from the vote, which however the vote goes. And then that way the individual, residents or the owner has the time to figure it all out with tournaments starting and everything. But, that's just it's just an opinion. So
He's had a year to think about it now. So,
I know, but
Well, even if we vote on the 24th, it's published the 25th, we still have to get signage and different things out.
right.
So that's all it takes. There's some logistics involved there. So it may take another 30 days till you can enforce anything or.
I like
would it?
your consideration
think
of the
so.
pool opening too.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I
It's gonna
think
get
that's
busy.
probably worth you all discussing now is what kind of
Mhm.
date you would prefer staff to
yep.
put into the ordinance.
When's that road getting redone? Striped and all that good stuff.
I
All
would
hard.
say they're moving. Probably the second week of May, they'll be out there milling and paving.
So to me, that's probably when the signage and then the striping's up after that. So to me, that's when it really kind of becomes official. When we have the signs up and the striping done.
So I'll get the ADA ramp installed first prior to them milling and paving, so we don't have to have equipment on that.
Right.
And then the striping, we've got the contract with the pavement striping. Soon as they're done paving, they'll be in and stripe from 147th to 7th Highway. And then Clubhouse Drive to Hollingsworth. So
Timing's perfect. Do the 24th, notice the 25th. Then
weather
we'll
permitting,
have
by
new
the end of May,
strips.
be completed.
Yeah, so the end of May will be noticed up and posted.
So we're looking at approximately 30,000 instead of 154,000.
The estimates we've got. We will be able to do the ADA ramp and the pavement striping. Believe it'll be under 16,000 per month.
Okay.
And I would have voted for that regardless.
Mhm.
Of the site.
Yes.
Yeah,
Agreed.
exactly.
Around 10,000. 8,500 or 9 for the pavement striping. And then I believe the ADA ramp was 50, low 5,000, somewhere right in there.
And then we'll need some more no parking signs for the other side, I assume, also. So I guess, okay, that's good. So I guess one thing that I'd really like to have clarification on myself is an exact date. Is that after the paving, it goes into effect May 31st, June 1st, May 15th? I would be more comfortable if we really nail it down to a specific date and everyone involved knows that this is the date that you are no longer parking here.
Staff is more comfortable with the firm date from an ordinance perspective as well.
Thank you. So
So it's either effective immediately upon publication, which is the next day, or it's effective on a date certain. So I think that's really, it appears that the consensus of the group today is that we want to implement no parking. The question I think that's really outstanding is what date do you want that to be effective? And that really is a policy decision of this body. And there are any number of factors that go into considering that, and staff is
Like-
happy to bring back whatever
Like that
preference
would be
is.
towards the end of May to allow time to put the roads in and put the striping and put the signage. And to me, it's kind of hard to enforce because I don't know how many people look on our website to see it.
right. I
See
agree.
if they really saw it. There's
Yeah.
no signs out there.
There's no
But I
sign.
was Sherry, I'd put a date on it though.
It'd be
not just
difficult for the
end of May.
officers too, that would have to try and enforce it. People be like, well, you don't have a no parking sign, why are you giving me a ticket or a warning?
Gene, why
So-
don't you just think about a comfortable date that you think it would
Yeah.
actually be completed, the signage and the
And
striping.
then the
and-
24th, he can look at all that and then give us date on the
Yeah, if that's the
24th.
15th to 20th of May, whatever that is.
So our ordinance, if we bring it back, I mean, I'm just looking at a calendar here. If we say in the ordinance that it becomes effective Friday, May the 24th, that gets us before Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend is typically when the pools, really
Yeah.
start raging with, the kids who are willing to jump in when it's super cold still. And that gives the police department plenty of time. That gives us an opportunity to provide notice to, there's multiple HOAs and Falcon
Yes.
Lakes, and it also gives us time to notice the property owner.
Yes.
And the property owner's already been notified that his current site plan, which includes a parking lot, is expiring. So if this perhaps inspires him to want to move a little bit quicker on his plans, at least he's got that information to make those decisions.
I'm good with that date.
Yeah.
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 Kind of want to
Concur.
start circling that,
Okay.
pencil or something.
So we'll bring it, the ordinance as of now will include a date of effective Friday, May the 24th. And of course, at your next meeting, if you want to change that, you certainly can. We can amend that ordinance by motion during the meeting, but that's what we'll plan to have in the ordinance.
Sounds good. Any more questions?
I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that, Councilmember Sandiford.
Sir, did you have anything?
Sounds great to me.
Okay.
Spread the word to your neighbors. We do we
Yeah,
do good
say
things once in a
white
while.
Okay, moving on, item number 3, adjournment. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for all of you for coming tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I had written here.
Yeah.